Okay, can you all hear me now? Just confirm that you can hear me, please.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Thanks. Okay, now I have a difficult task to speak after Professor Sekulic, but I will try to be as clear as possible. And also you can ask at any time anything you want. So don't hesitate to just jump in, or you can write in the chat. So you can see the presentation, right?
Okay.
Just a second. No, it should be better. Yeah. Okay, so my topic is the research process in kinesiology. I will probably cover some aspects that Professor Sekulic already mentioned, but I will try to give you other or mine examples. So for start, the research process has different models. Generally, the process is not always neat. What does it mean? It means that you will not always be able to follow the process stage by stage, and you will have to move back and forward between the elements of the research process. And it can also happen that you will carry out two or more elements at the same time. Therefore, it is important to know that research elements are not isolated, but are actually part of one overall process. I will explain this in more detail later. General elements of the research process in kinesiology in sports include the following. First one is the selection of topic, reviewing the literature, development of theoretical and conceptual frameworks, clarification of research question, research design, data collection, data analysis, and drawing conclusions. So in this lesson, we will cover all of these elements briefly, and I will try to clarify what do they mean and why they are important in your research. So this is how it looks like graphically, and it is important to note at this point of time that the fourth stage, the fourth element, is the clarification of research question, which is actually the base of your research, because all other stages that you are doing are actually conducted for answering and clarifying that research question. I will also talk about that in more detail later. So the first stage is the selection of your topic. This is a crucial stage in your research, because inappropriate topic will lead to difficulties later in research. And it is the most important thing is that you choose a topic you are interested in, as Professor Sekulic mentioned in his lessons, because it's easier, and the research process is easier to conduct and more relevant to you if you care about your topic and you are not just reiterating someone else's work, or presenting or researching the topic you do not care about enough. Why is this important? Because a few days ago I bumped into this phrase that generally PhD students are advised to find a gap in research, and I will try to explain why this is not a good concept to go with, because finding a gap in research means that it actually assumes that an academic field or your research field is like a wall, and that every researcher brings a brick or two which is building that wall. But the problem is that researchers sometimes are unable to solve a problem which results in that gap in the wall. And that's why sometimes you can find yourself doing research that no one cares about, simply because no one has ever written about that before. Why did I mention this? Because of this major most important part of the research, you have to try to find the problem you are interested in. And the most important thing later, which follows this, is that you have to know there is a place in the world for whatever you have to say on a given topic. That's why Professor Sekulic asked you, what are your research interests? You all have your own research interests, and that is very important, as you have to know that that is actually relevant to the academic field, and that you will be able to draw some conclusions from your research. Now I will give you one example of choosing the topic. This is the first one. I will just try to send you this research in chat. Just a second. So you can open. So you can open it on your computer, and you will be able to follow it better later on. Just a second. So this is the first example. You can just open it on your computer. And the second example. Can anyone just say if they got this research? And
yes, we got it.
Thanks. So this first research, prospective analysis of levels and correlates of physical activity during the COVID-19 pandemic and imposed rules of social distancing. How did the authors find the idea for the research? Why is this so important at this moment? I will try to explain you. So we got the answer to this question is that the idea found the authors, because at this moment we collected some data about physical activity and physical fitness in high schools, and then lockdown happened, and then we thought, what can we do to see how those physical activity levels are dropping or staying the same during the lockdown, and how can we help to prevent the drop in the physical activity levels. So we actually conducted this research based on the research which was initiated before, and we followed the same methodology done before, but during the lockdown we used questionnaires to follow the physical activity levels. And this is actually the first study about physical activity levels in adolescents during the COVID-19 pandemic in Croatia, and probably in this southeastern Europe area. So the background of the research was, as I said, to follow what happens with physical activity levels in adolescents, and scientific is that no one has done that before in our area and probably globally at this time. And example 2 is actually following the first study. because as you can see in this first study, the conclusion is that physical literacy is in the background of the results that we collected. I will talk about that later. So we wanted to conduct research about physical literacy in adolescents, and that was the background for this other research. So the first research was the background for the second research, which is actually completely different. That's what I want you to remember at this point. When you selected the topic, you have to review the literature on your topic. This is important because during this stage, you should aim to become an expert in your field of research, and reviewing the literature has to give you an answer whether similar research has already been done, show you the types of findings you can expect from your research, because some other researchers have done similar research, and you know which direction your research should follow. And also the reviewing the literature can provide descriptions of the theoretical frameworks and previous methodologies done by others doing the similar research. This is important because sometimes you can just jump into something you are not an expert. For example, you know the theory and background of your topic, but you don't know the methodology, how to collect the data, how to analyze the data, and so on. And that's why also reviewing the literature can give you answers and direction for that area as well. So we again go to the first example, this first study. What was known so far, and what did authors highlight as lacks in current knowledge? What was known so far? So I will now go in more detail about this first research, so it will maybe be better for you to open it up on your computer so you can follow what I'm talking about, and you will have to give some answers for the second example. So what was known so far is that physical activity levels are already low in adolescents, and especially and also in Croatian adolescents, and some commentaries and brief reports at the start of the COVID-19 lockdown reported and suggested that physical activity levels will drop during the pandemic, as we had all those social distancing measures. Gyms were closed, schools were closed, sport clubs were closed, and so on. And that was known so far. And from that, authors highlighted lacks in current knowledge, and that was that no studies directly examined changes in physical activity levels during the COVID-19 lockdown, and no factors which may have influenced those changes have been explored. So that was actually the theoretical and theoretical background why we conducted the research. That's why it was very important to review the literature, to have those questions which we wanted to answer by our research. Okay, now example 2. So this second study about physical literacy, it is titled Adolescents with Higher Cognitive and Affective Domains of Physical Literacy Possess Better Physical Fitness. And it's actually about the importance of developing physical literacy in high schools. So can you just please all open this second research and try to answer those two questions. You will have 5 minutes just to read this actual part, so you can find it actually in the introduction part of the research, just a hint. So please, you can type it, or you can raise a hand, or just unmute yourself and give the answers to those questions, please. Okay, has anyone managed to do this task? Please, just briefly, just few sentences, and we can go on. I will, of course, give you an answer and try to clarify this example. Anyone? Do you hear me at all? Okay, let's say we will go on. So what was known so far about this topic is that physical literacy in the background is the background concept to engage in physical activity, and this engagement leads to better physical fitness, and that's important for overall health of the adolescents. That was known so far, and author highlighted as lacks in current knowledge that no studies have been conducted in Croatian adolescents because a concept of physical literacy doesn't exist or didn't exist before those studies in Croatian physical education system, and that's actually the background for this research. The third stage of your research process is to develop theoretical and conceptual frameworks. What does this mean? This process actually starts while you read the literature, while you, in this first stage, briefly theoretical framework describes the theory which supports the research problem, while a conceptual framework represents the relationship you expect to see between your studied variables. I will try to explain this in more detail now. Okay. So which theory supported this first study? This first study of physical activity levels during the COVID-19 pandemic. This first study actually supported the theory that physical activity levels will drop as a consequence of COVID-19 drop down, and those were actually also the expected outcomes of our study. So we got this idea from reviewing the literature and, of course, from the situation we were at that moment, and we wanted to prove that by doing this research. And now we are reaching probably the most important stage of the research process, and that is the clarification of the research question. This is, I repeat, the most important part of the research process because you have to develop a good and focused research question. Because after all, the research process is based on answering that research question. And the most common mistake is the lack of clarity over the overall aim or the question of the research. Why is this important, the clarity? So you have to be specific, and you have to have a focused and not too broad research question, because if you don't have a focused research question, you may end up doing some research that you will not be able to conduct to the end. So you will probably fall into some gaps, and you won't be able to collect the data and so on. So you have to have you have to develop a focused research question that you are able to answer on. I will also explain it in more detail later. How do you develop a research question? So the first stage is to decide your initial research topic. So this is the first stage of any research process. And also I have to emphasize that it is very hard to identify research question straight away, and possible sources that can help you to get your research question is following. So first is past research projects. If you have any experience in research you have done before, that can help you in building the new research question, because you are generally you already know what is lacking and what is your interest in that research question. Also, you can try to find literature from other disciplines. For example, you can find other papers which conducted similar research but in other disciplines. For example, this COVID-19 pandemic example, you can find your question in the medical sciences and not about physical activity only. So you can find, for example, some researchers conducted severity of COVID-19 during lockdown for patients with different medical conditions, and you can find it as a cornerstone for your research. That's only one example, and it's connected with this third one, social concerns, COVID-19, also popular issues you are interested about, your own history and personal characteristics. For example, you were an athlete, or you are a sports coach in football, soccer, handball, basketball, or so on, and you want to develop some research ideas which can answer your questions. I will just do some very simple example. You want to know how to make your athletes run faster. Just stupid advice, but stupid example, but just to be clear about what I'm talking about. So you will base your research about on answering that question. You will develop programs, you will develop measurement instruments, data analysis, data collecting, and so on. And for the last thing, I put your mentor, because you are all PhD students, and I believe that your mentor is the cornerstone of your research, because you probably chose your mentor based on your research interest, and your mentor is probably able to critically evaluate what has been done before, what are your interests, and he is probably able to give you an answer on to provide you opportunity actually to find your research question. That's why your mentor is probably the most important person for doing your research and for doing doctoral thesis. So I really hope that you picked the right mentor to help you answer all those questions. When we come to the originality of the research, as Professor Sekulic mentioned in his lecture, your research doesn't have to be completely original. What does this mean? You can build upon the work of others through using existing knowledge, which provides you the framework for more realistic research topic. Of course, it should have some degree of originality, but this originality can be achieved in numerous ways, and I will try to give you examples, give a few examples how to make your research original by building it on the previously researched topic. So you can, for example, make it original by using the geographically different areas. For example, you can study your topic in different countries, in different living environments, such as urban and rural. Now I will also give you an example of physical activity research, as this is my main research field. So, for example, in Croatia and in Slovenia, physical activity levels are completely at the different stage. In Croatia, for example, only 81% of adolescents are physically active sufficiently, while in Slovenia, no, 80% are not sufficiently active, while in Slovenia, only 25% of adolescents are not sufficiently physically active. That's a huge difference only by geographically areas. So those are two different researches. For example, we can choose another concepts. If we want to develop physical literacy, it will be completely different in Croatia and in Slovenia. So that's the originality of the same topic. Same goes for urban and rural living areas. We know that urban adolescents, for example, have more opportunities to practice sports, while rural adolescents don't have enough facilities to practice sports, and that's where their physical activity levels can be different. That's the main reason. Even people at first would think that rural adolescents spend most of days outside running and so on. That doesn't happen. And that's why it's important to conduct such research on different areas. Second, we can measure different social groups. For example, disabled individuals, elderly, or women, and all of those groups are actually understudied because they are sometimes more difficult to measure. For example, disabled persons are very difficult to test at any physical capacities because they are mostly they are disabled, so it's completely different from the normal people. That's why it's also, but it's however, just to go back, it's very important to measure, as this is something new, something original that no one has done before, and it is at the same time important to do. Also, we can prove some outdated findings. So just repeat it with new methodology, which follows the next one. Revisit existing research using new theories and collecting different data to explore the theory. You can collect different types of data on the same thing. And you will probably get different answers. For example, you can measure your physical activity using interviews, so one by one interviews, and you can use paper pen questionnaires. It's the same, you are measuring the same construct, but in the different way. And that's also the originality of the research. The second phase of developing research question is developing a focused research question. I will repeat what I said before. One of the complaints of research projects is that the research question is sometimes too broad. And without a good focused question, it is impossible to carry out research successfully. Why is this so? Because it's not always possible to do or to conduct the research to answer your question, which is too broad, because your question can be too complex, or you don't have you won't have an access to collect the data. For example, in some countries, it is very difficult to collect data on children, on young children, because some countries do not give ethical approval on that studies. So that is hard to collect. Okay, now I'm, for example, in Germany, I want to study young children, but I don't have ethical approval, so I'm not able to do that research there. That's why our countries are probably better for that research. You also have to have all that in mind before you start with your research. The third thing is that you sometimes don't have facilities or resources in forms of technical equipment, some other measuring tools, and that's why you should also consider it before collecting your data, before actually beginning your research. Also, you should aim to have an expert in your team or your own expertise in methodological statistical area, because sometimes I see papers which come for me for review that are actually quite good and interesting and relevant for the scientific field, but they didn't use appropriate methodology, and the statistical analysis was done very poor, and that's why those papers are often rejected, even though the research question and the research topic is very relevant and important. That's why you should cover all these possible problems before the start of your research. To sum up this part, the first thing and most important thing is that you must have a focused and not too broad research question. This research question must be of interest to you. You have to care about that research question. Otherwise, without your interest in that research question, it would be more difficult to conduct the research by itself. Question must be feasible and data must be obtainable. And let's say you have to manage to collect your data. Also, you have to have appropriate skills to undertake the research, or you have to have a team which can help you to collect the research. And this is also, I will go back to your mentor. If you don't have a mentor who is able to undertake the research, then you also have a problem, because let's assume that you are PhD students and you haven't done much research before. You won't be able to conduct or collect your data or analyze it and so on. So you have to have that background covered by your mentor or your team in the background. Also, you must be able to cope with the theoretical and conceptual issues related to the research. Sometimes when you conduct the research, collect the data, you analyze the data, you write the research paper, sometimes the experts in that field can find a gap in that research, and you have to be able to answer to their question, and that happens before the research question. So you have to have theoretical background very profound before your research is done. Okay, is it clear for now? We will just go to our example, so we can summarize all of this about the research question. So the first example, what did authors highlight as research question or hypothesis? So you can see it at the end of the introduction section. I will just read it. This prospective study aimed to evaluate the level of changes in physical activity levels among adolescents from southern Croatia, specifically for boys and girls. We also explored factors that may be associated with physical activity levels and changes in physical activity levels. So what are those are the research questions or hypotheses. The hypothesis is that the physical activity levels of adolescents would be significantly reduced as a consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic and the imposed social distancing measures. So those are the main aims and the main research hypothesis of the given research. For the example 2, I will not ask you again to answer those questions. I will just briefly cover it myself. What did authors highlight as research question in this second example? So the question is whether physical literacy is associated with physical fitness in adolescence, and the main aim was to answer that hypothesis or to investigate whether physical literacy is essential determinant for physical fitness during physical education classes, and that was actually the main aim of this research. Okay, now I will just give you some time to grab a water, coffee, or something, just a few minutes, or I will just be here for any questions which may have arisen from this initial part of the lecture. So please, you can just take a few minutes of break, or you can ask me anything you want. Okay, let's go on. So the fifth stage is the research design. In this section, we will cover how to ideas on how to answer research questions. This includes the decisions on which and how to collect your data, who will participate in your research, and what are the procedures that will ensure reliability and validity on your data. Those are 6 general research designs, and there are many more. First one is experimental, cross-sectional, time series, longitudinal, and case study. I will just briefly cover a few of them just for you to gain knowledge about those different types of research. Experimental design is probably the most, let's say, precious design in sports studies, because it's also probably the most difficult to obtain. It is generally used to identify whether an independent variable has an effect upon a dependent variable, and this is actually used to determine or demonstrate causality between those variables. The simplest form of those designs is measuring variable from a single group, so it's dependent variable, exposure of the group to a particular treatment, it's independent variable, and measuring that initial variable again. So the effect of the treatment is assumed to be the difference between the initial and the final measurement on your initial variable. I will just give you an example. So this example just has one problem, and the problem is that it assumes one group of participants. And why is this a problem? Because you don't have a control group. You have to have a control group in your experimental design, because one group is exposed to treatment and the other group is not exposed to your treatment. Why is that so important? Because you can, for example, we'll go to that stupid example. You want to make your athlete faster. You will conduct some experiment, for example, 8 weeks of specific training oriented to developing the running speed of your athlete or athletes. And the problem is that if you conduct it on one group, okay, you will get the results. They will probably improve. But this other group, this control group, may also improve as a result of time. For example, if you have adolescents or children which are not active in sports, they will probably, during the time of any training, not specifically designed training, they'll probably improve their running capacities. And you want to target that running capacities specifically and see, okay, this training has impact on my running speed or it doesn't. So you have to have a control group which will serve as a control for your experiment. And that's the main solution for your experimental design. So the overall effect of the treatment is the overall difference in scores between each group, so between experimental and between the control group. Now I will just give you an example on the research which we published a few days ago. It's about the effectiveness of physical literacy-based online education on physical fitness in high school adolescents. So we actually conducted an intervention of physical literacy during 12 weeks. We did some online video materials which our high school students watched, and those video materials were oriented towards learning or teaching how to be physically active, why is it important, what is cardiorespiratory fitness, what is strength training, why is flexibility important, about nutrition and other concepts that are forming physical literacy. So in the initial stage, we measure their physical fitness, and in the final stage, we measure their physical fitness. We had two groups. One group was experimental. Those children watched those video materials, and the other group was control. They didn't watch those video materials, and we evaluated how and which groups did improve their physical fitness. And in this case, the experimental group, or the group who watched the video materials, improve their physical fitness in terms of this beep test, or cardiorespiratory fitness test, and that is why we actually proved that our experiment actually worked, because control group didn't improve this capacity and our experimental group did improve it. And that's actually the main point of those experimental studies. The second most popular design in our field of research, which are social sciences, are cross-sectional design studies. This design takes a cross-sectional sample from the overall population. So data is collected only once at one time point from all participants. So you don't have experiment, you don't have to wait for the effectiveness of your treatment. You just simply collect data at one time point at all participants. I will give you the example. So the example is this second study. So we evaluated physical literacy and physical fitness of our high school students at one time point. So we collected all data on, let's say, 544 high school students. So we included a large number of adolescents at one time. So this is only conducted during one testing point. And the main difference between those two research is that you can, through cross-sectional designs, cover a larger number of participants, because you don't have a dropout from your study, as you collect the data only from one time point. That's why it's most feasible in our research area. The third popular design is longitudinal design. It uses the same sample group and measures particular variables over an extended period of time. This period of time involves a range from just a few weeks to several years period. And this design has to be approached with caution, because it can take more time and resources than cross-sectional research. And there is always this issue of dropout from participants because of illness or something else. You don't always manage to conduct the research on larger sample as you managed in this cross-sectional design. And the most typical example of the longitudinally designed study is prospective study, and this is one of them. This is also done during the COVID-19 lockdown, and you can also see from the title, it's called a prospective study on adolescents. It's about the impact of scholastic factors on physical activity levels during the COVID-19 lockdown. As you can see in this graphical presentation, so we firstly collected the data in January. That's before the COVID-19 lockdown was imposed, and the second testing was 3 months later on the same participants. That's very important to know, and we measured only physical activity levels. So in the first testing point, we managed to use to collect larger number of variables, while in the second testing phase, we managed to collect only physical activity levels, but we conducted correlation analysis about the initial and the second testing point, and that was the main research goal of our study, to see how those variables which were connected before the study affected the physical activity levels during the COVID-19 lockdown. So this is basically the most common example of the prospective studies. And also with regard to physical activity levels, numerous researchers and organizations are following trends of physical activities during decades. So you can see some studies, prospective studies, which follow participants for more than 20 years. So from childhood to adulthood, and see what happens with their physical activity. So as you can see, it's way more time consuming and way more difficult to collect the data prospectively than this cross-sectional design. Okay, now we will jump to data collection. When you designed your study, when you picked your research topic, when you decided upon your research question, it's time to collect the data which will actually help to answer your research question. This data collection allows you to gain knowledge and original insights into your research problem. There are several general methods to collect data in sports, which are experiment, survey, interview, observation, or secondary data collection. As we mentioned before, the experiment is conducted on some fields, and you collect data in that manner. Survey, you can use surveys or questionnaires to collect data, or interviews to collect your data. You can observe your participants or patients or people involved in your study, or you can collect your data from secondary sources. For example, it is popular to collect data in basketball from matches done before. So you, for example, look how many passes, how many dribblings, how many different actions teams conducted, and you, for example, you compare those two teams in numbers of actions. So you didn't collect your data directly, you observed it from some other sources. That's some common example. So for the first study on this prospective analysis of levers and correlates during the physical activity during the COVID-19 pandemic, which data is collected? We collected data on physical activity, physical fitness, and so on. And what was the procedure of data collecting? The procedure was actually mixed. So we conducted the research of place before the pandemic with several measuring instruments or fitness tests, so beep tests, standing long jump, and so on. And we used surveys or questionnaires to collect physical activity levels. In this example, we used physical activity questionnaire for adolescents. Okay, the seventh stage of your research process is data analysis and discussion of your findings. So when you collect your data, you have to analyze it because this is used to give you an answer to your research question, and so your collected data should be properly analyzed. It is important to mention that this data analysis should always be related to your research question and to objectives of your research, because you should be able to answer how do the findings contribute to the existing literature, what is new, what did you get, what is not new, what did your findings support the literature, or were they contrary to the existing literature. You must be able to give an answer on that. What are the possible reasons why you got the data you obtained? So, for example, do your results support the literature? I will go back to the example of physical activity in Slovenia and in Croatia. If we only looked at studies done in Slovenia, we will not be able to conclude, okay, our findings are according to the findings of the Slovenian researchers, because we got completely different results. And that's why it's important to analyze it and to discuss and conclude our findings. I will go to this first example. I believe you already managed to follow this study, as I tried to briefly introduce you before. So what were the main findings of this first study? How do the findings contribute to the existing literature? For example, our study contributed to the existing literature because they supported the findings, or they supported the theory that physical activity levels will drop during the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's why that's what our results supported. And if we didn't have the positive answer on that research question, we will have to give possible reasons why we didn't have it. So that's the main point of this stage of this data analysis. So you have to, when you have your results, you have to put in the context of previous research, on your expertise, on your research, and on your situation or country or sport background. That's very important to understand at this point. Okay, now we get to the final part, and that is drawing conclusions from your obtained data, analyzed data, and so on. To answer the answer to the research question should be clearly stated. So you have to write in your research article what is actually the answer to your main aim and main hypothesis, which you stated before in your research. Also, you have to state which are the strengths and limitations of the research which you evaluated. As Professor Sekulic already mentioned, this isn't just finding what you didn't do right or something else. This is just like giving direction for future studies, which can what can additionally be done, which area can also be done with your future research. That's why this is a very important part. And for the usually the last sentence of your research article is recommendation for future research. You can provide that from your research. That's also very, very important from this perspective. So this first example, what were the main conclusions from our study, and what were the strengths and limitations of our research? Firstly, the main conclusion is that this study evidenced a significant decrease in physical activity levels among adolescents, and those changes are mostly influenced by a decrease physical activity levels in boys. So that was the main conclusion, and from the perspective of authors, physical literacy is a baseline milestone that should be conceptualized in public health efforts, which are targeting to reaching physical activity levels in adolescents. So those are the main conclusions from our research, and we are giving this recommendations for future studies. I will also read it. Future studies should explore other factors that could possibly influence physical activity levels changes. In doing so, special attention should be placed on the living environment. So this study actually gives a theoretical background for the future studies, because the second study, which was done after this, is conceptualizing living environment in differences in physical activity levels during COVID-19. So we got that urban adolescents decreased their physical activity levels more than rural ones, because they had decreased opportunities to practice sports and other forms of physical activity. So this is just one practical example how you can build on your research. So you conduct your initial research, and then you can develop later on more research questions and research answers, as we did in our study or in our studies. What were the strengths and limitations of our research? Usually me and my mentor and other from the team are mentioning first limitations and then strengths, because in limitations we just put what should be done, and strengths what we did, what is important for our research. That's why we do it that way. So the most important limitation of this study is that physical activity levels were not objectively measured, but were reported using the online questionnaires, and this can lead to socially biased answers, as people tend to overestimate their physical activity levels. But the strength of this research is that this is the rare prospective study during the COVID-19 pandemic. As I said, this is the first one in Croatia, and probably, not probably, but broader. And this is why it is very important. This is actually initial study which led to other studies, and this is actually the first study in my PhD dissertation, which consisted of 4 researches done in the similar manner. That's why it's important to have these strengths and perspectives for future research. Okay. That's all for my today's lecture. Is anyone alive? Okay, can anyone hear me now? Please just.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Was everything clear? Do you have any questions for me at the moment? Please don't hesitate to ask. Okay, all clear, I suppose. So tomorrow you will have three more lectures from Šime Veršić, also Professor Sekavić, and myself. We will cover different topics and try to help you with your research thesis or research processes. So please don't hesitate to ask us anything you want. We are here for clarifying some of your issues or questions, and we will try to help you in your writings. Thank you for your attention, and see you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you, Barbara. Bye.